In this short video, I'd like to focus specifically on the hypothalamus and its relationship with both the anterior and posterior pituitary gland. This relationship is called the neuroendocrine control. What I've represented on the board right now is the pituitary gland. This anterior pituitary, and this the posterior pituitary. And both of these extend down from the hypothalamus. Now I'll just put an H here for hypothalamus. Remember, the hypothalamus is named because of its location to the thalamus. The thalamus is up top, up higher in the brain than that. Pituitary is a gland, and what glands do is they secrete hormones. But what we have to recognize is the mechanism of this hormone secretion and what the effect of that is. The hypothalamus is that part of the brain which is sensitive to changing body needs. And it's always monitoring and tasting, if you like, what's in blood. So it's recognizing, okay, this is needed and that's needed and so on. What it's able to do is produce and release things known as releasing factors. And these releasing factors get put into the blood, and they travel through the blood, through the circulatory system, tiny little blood vessels in here, to the anterior pituitary. I should make the note right now that this particular blood vessel is a portal blood vessel. Portal blood vessels are very specialized. There's only two places in the body that have portal blood vessels. They're very specialized because they have capillaries on both ends. So where the hypothalamus has a capillary bed that's into which it puts these releasing factors, the blood comes from that down into the anterior pituitary where there's another capillary bed. And because there's capillary beds down here, these releasing factors can get out of the blood and cause the cells, there's various cells in the anterior pituitary, to release more hormones or release their hormones. So the kinds of things that get released from the anterior pituitary into the blood, and I'll put the venous system goes back up like that, I'll just put blue. There's hormones that deal with the reproductive system, and I won't get into all the details of those hormones, but what it does is it releases hormones. And there's about 6 different hormones, and some of them deal with the reproductive system. The posterior pituitary is very different. The posterior pituitary is simply named a posterior pituitary because of its location. It really doesn't function in this manner at all. As a matter of fact, this is glandular tissue. It's an endocrine gland. This is actually nervous tissue. It's just located here. So if we could represent a line like that, what this is this is a gland that extends down from the hypothalamus, and it's fed a blood supply for the purpose of releasing hormones. This is actually nervous tissue. It extends from the hypothalamus. So what happens in this case is the hypothalamus will actually produce some hormones, and they travel through nerve cells to get released from the posterior pituitary. So we've got a nerve cell, a nerve connection on this side. Remember, that's a blood connection on that side. So we've got a nerve connection on this side, and this nerve will release hormones, and these hormones actually wind up going back into the blood in the same blood supply, so they're connected into that fashion. It's oftentimes you see pictures representing the pituitary gland. I'll just draw a little picture of it here. If you have the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary, something like that, and they release their hormones like that, well, they don't do that. If you see this picture, this is just a simplified version of what someone's trying to represent. If this is the pituitary gland, glandular tissue here, where's it going? This is like dropping off into the bottom of your brain somewhere. This is not accurate. What happens more accurately is they get put directly into the blood. These hormones there's only 2 hormones that are released here. And both of them play a very important role in our bodies, and they both show up in other systems. So I'm going to mention both of them right now. That's oxytocin, which is important in the female reproductive system, and ADH, which is important in the urinary system. Antidiuretic hormone it's called. The thing I can mention about these are both protein hormones. They're both very short hormones, like 9 amino acids long. They're not very long at all. So the cells, your nerve cells in the hypothalamus, make these short protein hormones, send them through nerves to get released into the blood. These hormones here are much more complex and far larger hormones. Remember, if you'd like to hear more of my videos, hit subscribe. That encourages me to keep going. Thank you.